Hi, Laura. Thanks so much for getting back to me. Sorry, yesterday, I had messaged you and then I was in readings and then I realized I had to take my daughter on our mommy-daughter date and I totally spaced checking my email. So sorry about that. We'll get you done. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a little look today at the deep chart. I just barely kind of put together, I didn't do all the planets because I have to hand calculate each spot, each position. It's a technique that I'm actually going to be writing a book on, I'm working on right now. So it's kind of for fun, but I found it to be really, really helpful. It adds another layer and another dimension to the birth chart. When you think of your tropical birth chart, I want you to think about it as the parts of the self. Let's imagine let's say we believe in reincarnation. If you don't, that's okay, but let's just say we do. Your tropical chart's sort of going to represent you in this life. It's you as an entity in this incarnation, but it's the things that you're going to be pretty much aware of about yourself. Even though we all have blind spots, we kind of know that it's a blind spot. We just don't know how to work with it sometimes. The shadow chart, on the other hand, it's like the things you see in other people that annoy you or just outright make you mad, okay? So what happens is, to me, you take the tropical chart and the shadow chart, draconic chart, and you marry them together, and that's how I come up with the deep chart. And the deep chart, I'm not sure what I'm going to call it exactly, probably something like sacred marriage or something, I don't know. But the idea is it does kind of come from the Jungian philosophy of marrying the opposites, marrying the inner and the outer parts of the psyche and the consciousness, the conscious mind and the unconscious. So with you, yours is really interesting. When I pulled up your deep chart, or your draconic chart rather, we've got your Sun, Mercury, Chiron, and Ceres, and MC all in Leo. So all of your Aries planets are in Leo. So we've got fire in both charts. And to me, when you think about the shadow side of Leo, because remember, your draconic chart's going to show you the stuff, the things that parts of your personality, things that you don't like about yourself that you need to explore and dive into. So the shadow side of Leo would be, it can be egocentric, it can be childlike, but in a negative way. It can expect other people to do things for it, or it can be boastful or proud or vain. So these things might be characteristics in people. If you see someone who's really egotistical or braggadocious or being selfish, it probably annoys you. That would be my guess. Probably annoys a majority of people. But the point is, how you work with this is in fact, if you know someone that really just gets you, make a list of all the things that they do that are annoying. So let's say it's someone who is overly self-confident, like a narcissist. Okay, so the opposite of that, if we were to flip that, like alternative facts, that a narcissist would become maybe someone who is very self-confident, and maybe there's a part of yourself at times that wants to be confident and wants to shine and wants to know oneself, right? And maybe sometimes that's something that is repressed, that you've learned that it's not okay to be, big and bright and shiny and like, here I am. And it's funny because as an Aries, you don't, to me, I wouldn't, from following you on social media, I wouldn't have guessed that you were an Aries necessarily. I would have actually felt more like you were a water sign, and you are an Aries ruled by Mars and Pisces. So that makes sense, right? There's more, the creativity, you have a good aesthetic, a good eye, that kind of thing. That feels more, Pisces to me. So at any rate, coming back to your draconic chart, you've got your your moon's in Scorpio. So in the 12th house, and it's, loosely conjunct Saturn. So a moon in Scorpio, an unhealthy one, can be neurotic, obsessive compulsive. They can be jealous, they can be very controlling, they can hide things, they can be secretive. The moon being in the 12th house too can be like, it could be somebody who's emotionally not, where they merge their feelings with other people's feelings, where they are clingy, they have a hard time separating their feelings and what they need from what somebody else might need. Just drink water. And then you've got, with Saturn kind of conjunct the moon, Saturn in Scorpio, it can be someone who maybe is punitive, is mean, a person who's just not nice, right? So there might be a part in yourself that says, maybe sometimes when you make a decision, you're not quite sure if the decision's the right decision, and you might be a little bit like back and forth with, your tropical Mars and Pisces. So there might be an element, the fixed quality that you see with the moon in Scorpio and the moon conjunct Saturn, having a plan and feeling like emotionally sort of in control of one's, kind of emotional well-being or emotional life. Not, and someone who too, because you've got a moon in Cancer in your 12th house. So that moon placement is one that's really sensitive. Usually moon in Cancers, they get touched really easily. Good emotion or sadness or, anything. And there's a tendency to withdraw, to go inside of oneself and to self-preserve, to go in and kind of lick one's wounds and to feel, even to feel kind of victim-y, like woe is me, right? So on the shadow side with that moon being in Scorpio, there's a strength to that moon in Scorpio, conjunct Saturn. It doesn't give up. Scorpio, although Scorpio is guarded, I will say moon and Scorpios tend to be some of the most emotionally brave people. Because they many times been through a lot. They've experienced a lot, and they have a desire to understand emotional and psychological sort of content in other people. So they can be manipulative as well on the shadow side, but on the high side, they can be they can be healers. So if there's times in your life where you feel like you need to be using your intuition or if you feel like I need to call somebody or I need to call so-and-so right now, or you get those little tingles that are telling you, or if it's even something more personal, like I feel like I need to create this project or start this business or write this book or write this screenplay, whatever it is that for you is like, yeah, I want to do that. And then if you ignore it and you say, but I'm not any good at that, or that's scary, or that's not practical, or whatever, that would be using using the shadow side, the less than positive side of your moon in Cancer conjunct Saturn. And the more, because that moon in Cancer really wants to feel like, moon in Cancer can be gloomy, right? It can get kind of depressive. And I'm sorry, my throat was so sore right now. 1 second. So funny. It might be our synastry. It hasn't been bothering me all day. Well, we've got so much smoke here from wildfires, and so it's awful. It's probably what it's from. Okay, but what I was going to say is that moon in Cancer wants to be able to pay its bills. Moon in Cancers many times feel very much tied to their family obligations, and they don't want to hurt anybody. They can be non-confrontational because they don't want to have to deal with the emotional fallout. And so that then they'll many times repress or hold stuff in or, not talk about the thing they want to talk about, or talk about it in such a way that is sort of with your Mercury that you have in Aries, you might, in the 10th house, you might approach it from more of a buttoned up, a perspective that's not really even about how you're really feeling, but maybe just the situation, like approaching it in a more objective manner. And so I think with this moon in Cancer, its real gift is its vulnerability and is its softness and its ability to feel. Because people I've got a good friend who's a Scorpio with a moon in Cancer like you. And I've seen him when he has been open and vulnerable, and he's lovely. And I've got another guy friend that's I have an Aries friend like you, Aries, and his moon's in Cancer. And he is always doubting his emotions. He's always second guessing himself or feeling like he's a wimp or feeling like he's like, why am I being so emotional about this? Getting on himself. And I'm like, it's fine. A lot of times people that have this combination too can suffer with depression, or even forms of bipolar. And I don't know if that's the case for you, but I have personally, my moon's in Aries and it's ruled by Mars in Cancer. It's a similar relationship that when you combine the body, Aries, with the moon, the emotions, you can see sometimes there can be fluctuations in our hormonal balances and fluctuations in sort of the chemistry of the body. The mood affects the body and the body affects the mood, okay? And especially because you also have a Mars and Pisces in the 8th house, which says that you're probably really sensitive physically to any type of stimulant or drug or even your environment. Mars and Pisces people tend to be hyper, they soak everything up. I've got a good guy friend who's a Mars and Pisces, and it's in the 12th house too. And he's he drinks a lot, and that's not common. Usually Mars and Pisces don't drink a lot, but he does. he's a quadruple Taurus. And so, but he's also gets really hungover and just feels really yucky. So anyway, point being, with this kind of combination that we have here in your deep chart, having that Leo, and then you've got your Mars in Cancer, your Moon in Scorpio, so water again. There's just kind of flip-flopped. We know that we have someone whose body and whose mind, or not mind rather, but your sort of unconscious material are going to affect each other. So Moon in the 12th, if there are times where you repress emotion or you stuff emotion down, or stuff memories down even, your Moon is in Scorpio. It's ruled by Pluto in the 3rd in your draconic chart. So there's like a story. We all have a story that we believe about ourselves from our own subjective perspective, and it might be something that needs to be released, purged, exposed. There may be a process of you needing to get more comfortable with owning what it is you want for yourself and being okay with being selfish, quote unquote, sometimes. Being okay with saying, this doesn't work for me. The situation, is making me unhappy, or it's really affecting my health, etc. That's kind of a big part of why you're here. North Node in the 5th house is about you being it's in Sagittarius, you authentically being you, right? So moving from that place of naming yourself and owning it. With it in your deep chart, you have a Sun in Gemini and a Mercury in Gemini. They're both together, 27 degrees. So that tells us you are here to be someone who comes from a very personal perspective, who speaks from a personal perspective, right? And where you understand yourself and you're a communicator. And you get to experience through actual process of trying different things in your life, which path you want to follow. That's part of your North Node and Sag in the 5th. All the mutable energies, or mutable signs, rather, archetypes are about process of like, okay, if you think about what they are, they're the transition between seasons, And so it's that process of moving from spring to summer or summer to fall. And so there's this quality of movement. So you have to kind of try things and see if they work for you or not. Now you also have the Moon in your deep chart. It's in Virgo. So this is the area that we need to focus our healing attention. And if you want to, the way you want to, if you're wanting to kind of integrate and make a part of the chart whole, you move to the opposite sign. So 21 degrees of Virgo's deep chart Moon, you're going to move to Pisces, 21 of Pisces. Forgiveness, surrender, letting go, spirituality, understanding the sort of that arc, or rather, what would you call it? That polarity, the victim martyr thing that sometimes pops up with Virgo and Pisces. And see, because your Moon squares your Mercury, there could be that tendency of taking on things in your life that you don't really want to take on, because that's a Virgo tendency, and then feeling annoyed by it. And then Gemini many times will kind of just zig and zag and can kind of scatter its energy instead of focusing. So I feel like the most important part of your sort of life journey in this life is you really understanding your Moon, your heart, your inner unconscious world. And that is a process. I mean, you can study Jungian individuation, processes like techniques like active imagination, which you can Google that or look it up on YouTube. It's a process that was developed by Jung where you, for example, draw a drawing, or let's say you had a dream that was pretty vivid and you draw it. It doesn't matter how it looks, but you draw it, you color it in, and then you meditate on it, and you meditate on the symbols and the things that you're looking at. And that is incredibly powerful. And when I was married, I kept having this recurring dream where I was in this building that was up above the ocean on these, pylons. It was all glass. It was just me. And there's a bed, and it was well lit. There's those little spotlights inside. It was all dark outside and stormy ocean all around. And I was just stuck in there. It was just, I would have this dream over and over. And it was at the end of my marriage when I was wanting to not be married anymore. And that's what it was. I felt alone and isolated. But I also felt like there was no way to get out. So I had this dream finally where I drew it, and then I had a dream that next night where I jumped through the glass into the ocean, which is like your unconscious. It's the unknown, right? And it's dark and stormy. I mean, how much more scary can it get? And then I could swim underwater. And it was really cool. There's like fish, dolphins, and like neat things down there. I was like, whoa, I didn't even know this is down here. And that's kind of been my life since, post-divorce. So point being, I feel like with a moon in the 12th, you probably naturally have really powerful dreams. That's very, very common. Same with moon and Pisces people. Natural psychic gift, also very common. And what happens when you have Saturn conjunct the moon is we can have fears about going in there. We can be afraid of letting go and trusting the intuitive visions that we see. We might feel like people will think we're crazy or woo-woo or out there, or that kind of thing. But I've actually found that, I've got a couple of friends that have psychic gift, and it's interesting to see how one of them is very open about her gift. And she's also she's also bipolar 1, and like rapid cycling, like pretty heavy duty. But she knows that about herself. Like it's not repressed. She's not ashamed of her emotional nature, and she's also incredibly gifted psychically. Like her sister died in June. She'd been talking to me since February. She's got a big family. She kept saying, I'm really worried one of my sisters is going to die. And she had a sister that was pregnant, so she thought she was going to die during childbirth. And that sister delivered the baby like the week before her other sister died. That kind of thing. And she does this all the time. This is like, anyway, it's great. She does my tarot cards and I do astrology. But anyhow, you probably have some similar gift. Sometimes she loves animals too. And I think, I'm pretty sure that you're an animal lover as well. And that's a great place to practice that gift, because animals, we can read our animals very easily and they don't judge us, we can sort of sense what they need and that kind of thing. I feel like it's a good place for us to exercise that tool. But I also think that you have, places in your life where this could be used as well. Your moon squares your MC and your IC, which tells us that there's your MC does have to do with career, of course, and you have a lot of planets up in the 10th. But more than that, it has to do with how you see your identity, because your sun is there, as far as what society says is acceptable, And so being someone who has psychic gift, and you also have a square from Saturn, it's a wide square, but you have a square to your MC, we can be worried about showing those parts of ourselves to everybody, like people are going to think I'm crazy or that I'm, Scorpio moon in the 12th and your draconic can feel like, people are going to think that I'm like loony bins. So I think you just embrace it and just, you don't have to share it with everybody, but I think, I'm like having the hardest time today, but to share it with people who you trust and that, the people that you care about that will, if you feel intuitions about people, if you feel like, I need to call that person, like I was saying, I even feel like with this chart with your Mars in the 8th, I feel like you have the ability with your physical presence and your physical touch with people, a hug, with your partner, like a caress or like a head massage or what have you, whatever. Even just being with you, sitting with you in your presence. Mars in the 8th people, my experience has been they have a healing touch. And maybe that's just because I'm a Mars in Cancer, but because you've got your Mars is in Pisces and it's in the 8th, because you are probably really sensitive as well to other people's juju, their energy, their emotions that they're wearing unconsciously through their physical body and that they're emanating off of their body. It's really important for you to stay grounded and I say a protection prayer every day, before I do my readings, and I pray, open the Akashic records, like that kind of thing. And there's resources online where you can get scripted prayers. I just have mine written down and I just read it every day. It's kind of long. And it's a protection prayer. I pray to, God and the guardian angels and archangels, and just ask for protection for like everything. Myself, my children, my family, it even is my car and my clients, and it's like for everything. So you might try that. And it also helps. I'm a water Mars as well. It kind of helps us get into our bodies, because sometimes it's really easy to disassociate a little bit, be kind of spacey feeling when you have a Mars in a water sign, and you have kind of a double doozy because you've got Mars in Pisces and it's in the 8th house. So you also have an inconjunct Pluto, which again, that's also would suggest a certain ability with your physical energy. to be someone who's a healer, someone who can draw out from other people that which is sort of the poison, so to speak. And so an ability to maybe, if you do it unconsciously, then that means that you're going to be absorbing it and taking it on. So it needs to be sort of a conscious effort, something that if you're wanting to use that skill, that you actually actively say a prayer or whatever, and then go use it. And then other than that, you're sort of protected. Mars is also forming a T-square for you here in your chart. So what I was going to say with your Mars, the opposite, opposite from your Mars, T-squares, you always want to go opposite from the apex, and that's going to be 5 degrees of Virgo. Oh, that's my Venus. See, yet another synastry that we have. So let's imagine that you want to work on this Mars. Let's say your Mars is really, let's say you get sick easily, or let's say your body is weakened sometimes by other people or by your environment. You're going to go over to Virgo in the second. You're going to pay attention to your nutrition. You're going to learn more about your body and about the energy systems of the body. You're going to learn more about the environment and things that maybe if you're allergic to molds, if you're allergic to pollen or dander or whatever, that kind of thing. You're going to actually figure out what is causing the wound so that you can then heal it. Okay, this isn't your deep chart, but I just wanted to throw it in there for you because I felt like it would be helpful for you. Also in your deep chart, we've got the Mars. See, this is nice. The Mars is in Libra in your deep chart. Or not your deep, in your deep chart. It's in, what did I say, Scorpio? No, Cancer, sorry. It's in Cancer in your draconic charts, the shadow side. And Mars in Cancer, that's what I have in my tropical. Boo. It is, and it's in yours is in the 8th at least, that's better. Mine's in the 11th, so it's like my energy levels are just like, literally affected by the moon, the phases of the moon, the transiting moon. Just really annoying. And you may have something kind of similar, or you might notice that your body has that, but you might not want to admit it to yourself, or it might be something that's something that's kind of like, I hate this about myself, or, I don't know. You could let me know. The opposite sign from Cancer is Capricorn, of course. So again, it's kind of like we have all 4 earth signs, all 3 earth signs kind of talking to each other in both charts, learning how to marry, because you've got a Libra Mars in the deep chart, learning how to marry the masculine and feminine, the outgoing and the ingoing energies. And through this process of earthly exercises like planning your nutrition, figuring out your environment, etc. So anyhow, okay, your other T-square is, of course, your moon. So its little polarity point is going to be over in in Taurus, in the draconic chart, and it's going to be in Capricorn. So again, this earthy, there feels like in your birth chart, you don't have a lot of fixed planets, right? You've got a rising sign, your ascendant and descendant are fixed, and your Uranus is fixed. And that's it. So we've got a lot of cardinal, a lot of mutable. Starting a lot of things and not completing them is what happens usually with that. So bringing in consciously, not because it's a natural, just this is how I am, but like an effort, a concerted effort to bring in Earth. Now, the other thing I noticed in your progressed chart, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, is your progressed moon's moving into Pisces. In fact, I think it is at 0 Pisces right now. Let me go back and just check for you. One second. Has to slowly load. So we'll work on this tomorrow. The tendency can be, we have a lot of, a lack of Earth in our chart, or a lack of fixed energy, fixed planets or angles, is we can feel, it's going to be really frustrating because we can get really excited and want to start some new project, and we start it and then we run out of steam, or we aren't quite sure how to even start it in the physical real world. So we'll spend a lot of time thinking about it or dreaming about it, or feeling like, oh, I'm not sure how to actually follow through on this. I'm not sure what the steps would look like. I'm not sure if I could ever make it gel for myself. So that can be sort of, sort of frustrating. Your progressed moon now is at 0 degrees and 54 minutes of Pisces. It's in the 6th house in the progressed chart, okay? I have the exact same thing right now, except for mine's in Virgo, in the 12th house. So it's like flip-flopped. And not my favorite. Now, you're a lucky bug because it's only going to be there for you for like the next 6 months. Okay. That's That is awesome. Most people, it hangs out. For me, it's been in there. It's like 22 months. So 6 months, it'll move into your 4th house. Okay. Your seventh house, Libra house. Now, what might happen with this? Because right now it's squaring exactly your ascendant, descendant, your progressed ascendant and descendant, okay, in your progressed chart. So it feels to me like it's a time where there are going to be a lot of changes in your friendships and your relationships with other people, new people coming in, old people going out, people from the past, even reappearing and then, disappearing. Right now it kind of feel like Groundhog Day. That's kind of how my life's felt anyway. Just working. It's a lot of work. Focusing on your health is really helpful when the progressed moon's in the 6th. So I personally, sometimes some people will fall into patterns of escapism. For me, it would be things like drinking or watching too much YouTube late at night, or, and then not sleeping. And then the next day not feeling great, because I drank the night before, I had too much wine, so I could fall asleep, so I could wind down, that kind of thing. I finally actually had a panic attack for the first time a few weeks ago. And I was like, okay, that's it. And I just cold turkey stopped. And I will never drink alcohol again. I'm like, I can't. Some people can, some people can't. I'm like, all 4 of my grandparents are alcoholics. Why, how would I have escaped that? So point being, this last, it's almost been 2.5 weeks, I have felt so good. So good. And I got on a anti-anxiety med too. So I'm not saying this has anything to do with you. I'm just illustrating a point that if you can look at your health and look at with your daily kind of habits and your routines, and everyone has something that's wounded, right? Whether it's their physical body or their heart, their emotions, emotional body, their spirit, what have you. So for you, it might be your moon. It might be your heart. It might be your, I don't know, look at that. And I got on, what's it called? Lexapro. It cost me $20 a month. The reason I was like kind of waiting was I was like, oh, it's going to be so expensive. $20 a month. I'd do that in a heartbeat. So point being, sometimes the fixes that we need are not a big deal. And when we have the moon in Pisces, we cannot always feel like we are sure about which way to go. Our path can feel really kind of blurry and foggy. And that's okay. It's a very good time to go inward. So it's a time for introspection. It's a time for reflection on your what's home for you. Great time to study existential or philosophical material, spiritual material, astrology. I've been reading a ton lately. This huge, ginormous book, this young book, I'm like right here. I'm very proud of myself. Lots of notes. I'm going to use that along with a bunch of other things. I'm putting together new video content. But so anyhow, just, immersing yourself in something that is, because it's kind of like escaping, but I'm doing it daily as a little habit. And it's been, if you can find something you enjoy doing, maybe if it's photography or going for walks or going hiking, but like doing it daily. It will help you as you move through this next 6 months. As the progressed moon moves into the 7th house, that can be a time where our relationship we're focused on relationships for sure, but we can also be a little unsure about, like, if we're not married, do we get married? Do I want to get married to this person? Do I not? Do I want to keep doing this relationship? It can just be a time of uncertainty. So you just kind of write it out. And the progressed moon will be in Pisces in the 7th house for the remaining 14 months, so it's for a while. Not 14 months, I'm sorry. What am I saying? 24 months. 24 months, so 2 years basically. It's 30 months per sign. And then it'll move into Aries and it'll be a brand new, fresh, new start. So maybe it's like you guys in Alaska, maybe, I don't know how long you're going to be there, if it's going to be like a period of 2 years, or if it'll be quicker. When we look at the progress chart, we can get more, when we look at the whole thing in detail, we can get more of a feel. So, all right, we'll stop here for right now and we will wrap up tomorrow with your progress chart. Okay, take care, Laura. All right, bye-bye.